Thank you kindly. Now, here's something you will never hear again at a conference. The future is analogue. With the great offence meant to all those IT people who think that digital is going to change the universe. Well, digital did change the universe. The trouble is, as people have become more automated and communication has become quicker and easier, it's also become less personal. And what happens as your relationship with your clients becomes less personal, a commoditisation of the industry is occurring, and this industry has commoditised itself significantly over the last 30 years, as evidenced by margins and pressure you guys are under all the time. And I believe when I say the future is analogue, the successful brokers of the future will have the strongest personal relationships with their clients and will not be marketing themselves purely on immediacy and ease of filling out forms and instant communication, because at the end of the day, technology changes, but people stay the same. I get asked a lot about the future of business and what's going to happen tomorrow. It's not happening today, and here's my take on it. I believe the future of business can be summed up in a very simple statement. Today's core product, and you can call insurance your core product, today's core product is not tomorrow's core product. Today's value-added service is tomorrow's core product. Please understand what I mean by that. Why would you be selling an insurance policy that I can get anywhere and cheaper if I'm prepared to screw enough people on price or jump online or whatever it is, when what you should be selling is everything you do to add value to the client that's got actually nothing to do with the insurance policy? I think you guys are in the wrong business. If you look at that from the real world of how that has sort of embodied itself in the last 20 years, you will see radical changes that you will notice now if you look back, where that change has been made for difference in terms of industries and how they market themselves. If you take the computer industry, the way they used to sell computers 20 years ago is you'd pay an arm and a leg for the hardware and they'd give you a whole lot of software for free. That's how they used to sell IT. Well, now it's the exact opposite. Now you pay an arm and a leg for software and applications, and the boxes are relatively cheap. The only differentiator in the whole IT industry is software and apps. Right? Who was the first company to work that out? Microsoft became the biggest company in the world. Who failed to see that coming? IBM used to be the biggest company in the world till they missed that trend. You take the mobile phone market. The first mobile phone you got, if you're old enough, was a brick, right? For the old people, right? Back in the 90s, you pay 4 figures for that brick, and they gave you a whole lot of calls for free. That's how they used to sell mobile phones. Well, now it's exactly the opposite. Now you can get a mobile handset of the latest technology for $0 as long as you sign a contract to buy 24 months worth of calls. Why? Because the money's in the calls. That doesn't mean the phone is free. If you lose it and it's not insured, you pay $1,000 for a new one. Samsung and Apple make their money. But what the industry has said, we'll take a loss on the one-off sale to make money out of the ongoing sales, because actually the calls are the core product, not the phone. Now, if you look at the mobile phone industry, it actually encourages disloyalty. If you do your homework at the end of your 24-month contract, it's actually cheaper for you to get a brand new mobile phone for $0 from a different carrier than it is to get a new battery for the mobile phone you're totally happy with. They'll charge you $140 for that. You take the gymnasium industry, and one of the most lucrative targets of the gymnasium industry are young mothers trying to get the figure back after having a baby. The gymnasium that offers free childminding, or not even free childminding, the gymnasium that offers childminding does better than the gymnasium that doesn't. And a lot of people say childminding, what a wonderful value-added service. No, the childminding is the core product. Those women want to get away from their screaming kids, and if they have to exercise, they'll do it, right? As men, we are similarly targeted. As men, we hate accompanying our wives, girlfriends, when they go shopping for clothes and shoes. It takes them 4.5 hours to do what we can do in 20 seconds, right? But every once in a while, we have to accompany them. Now, there's a factory outlet mall in Auckland called Dressmart. One of the retailers at Dressmart has a couch for lost husbands, right? They've got a big sign up on the wall there. It says lost husbands. Down there is a couch. They've also got a table in front with magazines on it that blokes like to read, and there's television there with sport on it, right? And you know what the husbands say to their wives? I don't care how much money you're spending, you go to one shop and one shop only, and that place is making a bloody fortune out there, right? Your core product is the insurance policy. Your value-added services, as I see them, are things like your years of experience, your NEBA membership and adherence to a code of ethics there, the fact that you keep up to date with legislation so I don't have to as a customer, what you give back to the community, the testimonial evidence of satisfied clients, all of these things which I suppose have technically been called value-added services as far as why I would choose one company or another. I'm actually saying, no, that's your core product. That's fundamentally your core product, because the policy may be a commodity which can be shopped on price, but the relationship with the broker, the central part of that is the relationship, not the insurance policy. And I think the industry has got that so wrong in the last 25 years. And this is classically the case in this industry. What happens, the only time I hear from is at renewal and you're offering me a discount, and I would have taken it at full price anyway, around there. And that's been happening for about 20 years out there in the marketplace there, because it's always been the insurance policy's been the core product we sell, and the value addeds are a bonus, I suppose, around there. Well, if you provide a product plus a range of value-added services, and your competitor provides a product without the value-added services, and you match price with that person, well, what you're saying to the marketplace is all the value-added services we offer are worth nothing. And that's been happening for a long time. It's certainly not unique to insurance brokers. It happens in most industries out there. And that's why I'm saying, well, the future here is not a one of becoming more efficient in our communication and being able to deliver immediacy on the internet and all area. I think the future for profitability in the business actually comes from making sure that it's not the only time I have contact with you at renewal time, and there is some sort of communication and relationship that is worth more than the policy that's going on, because there's always going to be people sniping and undercutting, in the industry. Whether people are vulnerable to that or whether I am tempted by that is really a function of how I feel about the relationship. If I have no relationship with you, or if I feel I have no relationship, you can send me 30 spams a year, you know what I mean? That doesn't necessarily mean I feel I have a relationship with you. The less I feel I have a relationship with you, the more I am tempted to take the discount of the person under, because at the end of the day, it's just an insurance policy. But if you add value to me, and that adding value is not just communicating the value added you provide, it's how you recognise me as a client. Do you thank me for my business? Is there any form of recognition, that is happening out there? I remember I told the story years ago at this conference about the CDs with the Lexus. Forgive me, those who heard it a couple of years ago. A lady was test driving a Lexus. While test driving the car, the salesperson asked her a lot of questions, some relevant, some irrelevant. One of them was, what type of music do you like? She didn't give it any thought till she took delivery of the car, and sitting on the front seat of the car were $200 worth of CDs and her favourite music. It was about 6 months after she bought the car, we did the workshop, and I asked her, how many people have you told about the CDs in the last 6 months? She said, about 100. I said, how many people you told about the car? It was a very interesting reply. She said, gee, no one initially, but every person I told about the CDs wanted to know what car it was. And I told 100 people how happy I was with my Lexus and where I bought it. I put it, you were all flogging Lexuses metaphorically. It's the CDs you put in with the Lexus that will determine how healthy your business is 6 months, 12 months, 5 years from today. And I put it to you, most Australian businesses, including insurance brokers, put in no CDs with their Lexus and wonder why it's so hard to generate any loyalty and referral business out there. But a lot of time is spent on putting the proposal together and, sharpening your pencil and getting the best quote and stuff out there, that we don't spend enough time on the recognition and the human side of the business. I was doing work years ago with PricewaterhouseCoopers, the big accounting firm, working with their proposal team, and they told a story legendary within PwC when they were asked to bid for the Toys R Us account when they came into Australia the first time, along with the other three companies in the Big Four. Now, the lead partner happened to have a child who was 6 at the time of the proposal, so he said, draw me a picture for the front of the proposal. So they put on the front of the proposal, and Toys R Us, this huge corporation, got proposals from all 4 accounting firms and said, we didn't read the proposals. You were the only guys who understood our business. You're all accounting firms. Do it. Now, that was just luck. That was just purely random. That did that. It wasn't a strategy or anything at all. But those companies spend 99% of the time working on the document and almost no time working on the differentiation, when the differentiation is the decider, around that. And I think that happens in the broking industry as well. We're spending so much time on the document, the proposal, the compliance, the issue there, that we leave out, and when we get busy, and especially when financial services reform came in and made us do more compliance and everything there, it actually took us away from our customers who needed someone to hold their hands and say everything will be okay, or be there at claim time, or whatever it is there. And I believe the trend of the future is that your value-added services, the way you add value, both before the sale to get the business and after the sale to keep the business, is the key to this happening. Now, what you've got to try and come up is with differentiators that ideally can't be duplicated. So, you drop your price, well, your competitor's going to match it, drop your price, big deal, right? But what you want to do is have things that have high perceived value but low actual cost, that actually create the relationship there with your customers. Let me give you a couple of examples. Now, my financial advisor rang me years ago on the morning of Melbourne Cup Day, said, Martin, you're one of my top 24 clients. We're having a free Melbourne Cup sweep just to say thanks for your business. You've drawn the following horse. If it wins, there's a big hamper. Come in and pick it up. I didn't win, but I think I told 10 people about my financial advisor. He could have done it for 240 clients. I would never have known the difference. Why don't you do that this year? Get your top 24, top 48, top 72 clients and have some free Melbourne Cup sweeps. Don't send out an email. Pick up the phone, doesn't matter if you get a voicemail, and say, it's Bill here from so-and-so. We're having a free Melbourne Cup sweep just to say thanks to our clients. You've drawn the following horse. If it wins, there's a big hamper. We'll get it out to you. Oh, the winners will love you, but so will the losers. And that's the kind of stuff people talk about. Guys having a drink, with his mate. I won the Austbrokers RIS Melbourne Cup sweep. Gee, I've been dealing with the mob down the road. All I get are bills and aggravation. Maybe I should talk to your guy. And that's how people change businesses. It's not discounts. Well, it is discounts in the absence of anything else, but it's creating perceived neglect in the mind of your customers, or you're creating perceived neglect in the mind of your competitors' customers. So there's a reason to turn over you rather than the cheapest policies that we're offering around there. You have to find the trigger mechanisms. If you look at the psychology of referral, it doesn't come from providing good service. It comes from triggering off the need for your services when someone's in the marketplace. For example, if I buy a new Lexus, I can't bore the pants off my friends telling me about the car because it'll make me a wanker, right? But if I tell them about the CDs and then they ask me about the car, well, then I can go on about how much I love the Lexus and where I bought it. The CDs are the trigger mechanism to be able to get the word of mouth out there in the marketplace. And I believe the supplier, or the broker in this case, you have to provide the trigger mechanism. That's your job, to provide the trigger mechanisms that make it easier to tell others about you, around there. And there are so many ways of doing this that are just not done by the majority of the broker. I understand people are there at claim time and everything is fine, but claims are the exception, not the rule. So we need to cultivate relationships with clients that don't make claims. We want to make sure that business and the premium income is still coming through there. And the times that this happens well, you can count on one hand out there. I was doing work with doctors years ago, GPs, bless their hearts, learned everything at uni except how to run a business, right? And GPs in the city don't make a lot of money. GPs in the country make a lot of money, every specialist a millionaire. But GPs in the city don't make a lot of money because they're attacked by medical centres run by business people, not doctors. So I was working with these GPs in Sydney and we got to this part of the seminar and one of the GPs said, well, gee, what can we do with CDs with our Lexus? I said, why don't you ring up your patients, see if they got better? Oh, never thought of that. Look, I grew up in the 50s and 60s when doctors actually made house calls. If ever I was sick, the doctor would always call my mum a couple of days later and make sure I got better. And you kept the same doctor for 35 years. Technology changes, people stay the same, which is why I believe I need the how's things phone calls from you that in a lot of cases I'm not getting. Do you know what I mean? I'll sure get email correspondence, but if you send me through, a change in a situation on my policy, just to pick up the phone and say, just want to make sure you got it, everything okay, any questions I can answer for you, just to get the human contact there without selling them anything. We have to find ways to do this. And obviously the beauty of this in a lazy industry is that, You don't have to do a lot to get ahead of your competition. Do you know? I'm working with one broker where we're running a thank you seminar for their clients. You know, the clients are in business, right? So we send out an invitation to you and say, we realise people like you have been responsible for the success of our business. I want to do something special to show our appreciation. Recently with the seminar on making profits in changing times, we got so much out of it, we're bringing Martin to you at our expense. In the seminar, you'll learn rat-tat-tat-tat, and everyone will receive 12 months marketing consultancy free of charge. The evening is totally complimentary and no one will sell you anything on the night. And I speak for about an hour on how they can market their business, because I get a profile of the people in the group. And then after I tell the CD Alexa story, I say, gee, pretty unusual for a business seminar that I haven't shoved Joe Bloggs down your throat all night. Gee, when David asked me to put this on, he was more concerned with your profitability than his. I'm just a CD with his Lexus. And we let him walk away feeling guilty. Do you know? And we also record it and post it online so they can use it to train their people for free. And today's CD becomes tomorrow's value add. So when we are going at renewal, we also remind them of all the things we've done from them. So there's more to it than the price of the insurance policy when people are making a decision in terms of and who they go with. Now, if you want to look at this and see how it responds to you as a consumer, there are classic examples of this working in the marketplace. Let me give you an example. The retail value added of the last 20 years is the cafe. Now, I'm not talking about standalone cafes. I'm talking about cafes in retail stores. How many different types of retail store can you think of that have a cafe in them today that never had one 20 years ago, right? You find them in car washes, you find them in bookshops, you find them in hardware stores, you find them in car dealerships, they're all over the place, right? There's cafes in these businesses that were never there 20 years ago. Why do they go there? It's a really interesting thing. The first industry to do it in this country was the nursery industry, garden centres. I happened to be doing a bit of speaking in the industry at the time, and I know why they did this in the mid-90s. And it comes down to a really simple concept. You guys are business professionals. Why would you put a cafe in a garden centre? Why do you put a cafe in a garden centre? Please. Okay, that's the first one. Keep people there longer. Anyone in retail will tell you the longer you can keep people in your retail store, the more money they'll spend. Excellent. Second one, why do you put a cafe in a garden centre? Harder to get. Why do you put a cafe in a garden centre? Okay, but it's the type of people, it's certainly to draw people in there, but it's the type of people that they would draw in with a cafe that they tried a lot of other things, nothing worked, right? Cafe went gangbusters for them. Why a cafe? What are the people they're drawing in? Why? This is really important because this applies just as much to your business, and I'm going to bring it back to the broking business shortly. What are the people? Why do you want a cafe as opposed to something else? You're here to work, ladies and gents. We can sit here and chat and look at each other's eyes, please.
I think it's a cosy atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the warmth and coziness then translate into their attitude towards softening up to buy something.
Okay, you're absolutely in the right direction. The ambience they're trying to create. But I'm looking for the person who wouldn't come to the cafe before that wouldn't come to the nursery before, that will come to the nursery to take advantage of that ambience and atmosphere. And it's critical for us to understand this because this applies to your business. Who are they getting that they didn't get previously by having something as lateral as a cafe? Sorry, it is a meeting place, but the type, please understand, I'll tell you if you don't get it, right? But it's the type of people. Absolutely. The non-gardening spouse. That was the problem they had, right? Look, the law of psychology works. Law of opposites attract, right? Someone who loves gardening almost always marries someone who hates gardening, right? It's 50%, it's men and women, it's got nothing to do with it, it's just the world we live in, right? So here's what used to happen in the nursery industry. Husband would wake up Sunday morning going, darling, let's go to the nursery. The wife goes, boring, right? So they put a cafe there. Wife has 2 cappuccinos. The husband spends $600 on plants they don't need. And if it wasn't for the cafe, they wouldn't have made the $600 sale. Now, the wife's happy she's got a coffee. The husband's happy he's got his plants. But the happiest person of all is the franchise owner of the nursery who makes the $600 sale he or she otherwise would not have made if they didn't have the cafe to attract people there. And it took off like wildfire. You might know people who either own or work in businesses, retail businesses, with a cafe in them. If you ask them why they do it, I bet you they don't know. I bet you they're doing it because everybody else is doing it out there, right? But that's the real reason behind it. Trust me, when McDonald's bring out McCafe, it's researched. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to duplicate the research out there. Here's how it applies to you. One of the types of shops that have a cafe in them is bookshops. Almost all bookshops have a cafe. So say you're out with a group of people on a Saturday night and you go to a movie and you come out and you go, well, let's go to a bookshop and have a cup of coffee. Trouble is there's quite a few bookshops in the area, all of which have cafes in them, right? So they go, well, which bookshop shall we go to? And there's always one coffee expert in the crowd who says, I know where they have the best coffee. They've all got books. Now think about this, right? The cafe, or the coffee itself, which used to be the differentiator, value-added service, is actually now the core product differentiator, and the books are the same at every shop, right? So say you happen to own a bookshop with a cafe in it, in the movie district in Melbourne, Sydney, wherever it is there, and you were going to do some local marketing. What would you promote? The coffee. You guys are selling the books. Almost exclusively. You guys are selling the books and not promoting the coffee. You guys are talking about, you know, the best insurance policy, all that sort of stuff there. What's the coffee for you? Your 38 years of experience. The people who in testimony will talk about how you stood by them at claim time. The fact that you give back to the local community and add value and support there. The quality of the customer service of the people you've trained to deal with clients out there in the marketplace. That's the coffee, right? But when I look at advertising and when I see promotions and I look at your websites, I don't see very much of that communicated out there. What we're all virtually saying is, well, we got the cheapest books, or we'll find cheaper books than you can get at the moment. And that's been happening for 30 years now. And the interesting thing is the coffee, which technically in some cases cost you almost nothing to provide because you're doing it anyway. It doesn't cost any more to tell people you've got 30 years experience, right? This is the stuff we're not communicating out there. Right? This is the stuff that needs to be communicated out there. Otherwise, the industry becomes a commodity industry. And it's embarrassing that something as emotional as insurance, getting people out of disasters in the most important parts of their life, that's become a commodity, for heaven's sake. But it has become a commodity. And you guys made it a commodity with the way you are communicating out to the marketplace. Now, we cannot change the past, but we can certainly change the future out there. If your marketing is telling people that you can get the best price for them on their policies and you win business that way, why is it a surprise when you lose business to people who say the exact same thing 6 months later? But that's the majority of the communication I see in the insurance broking industry. Here's what I'd like to see as an ad in the insurance broking industry. You get a client who, whether it be after a claim or someone who just really loves your service, and get them to write a short testimonial about how fantastic you guys have been to deal with and how it's been wonderful and whatever. And then you say, is this how you feel about your insurance broker? If not, talk to us. And capitalise on the fact that maybe they don't feel so good about their insurance, who might have taken a little bit long to return phone calls in a situation when I really need that there, and give the reason for them to come to you, the value-added service. By the way, here are all the things that we do for our clients. If your broker's doing this for you, that's fine, but if they're not, maybe you should talk to us. Do you know? And I believe the two things that shouldn't even be talked about are the insurance policy and what costs. Now, the range of insurances you provide is a value added, but the policy itself is a commodity, around there. So if we want to change this, we need to decommoditise the industry, right? And that's not an easy thing to do, but there are examples from other industries where they have managed to maintain margins in the same difficult times with GFC and all the crap that's going on out there. Around there. The difference is they sell an intangible and they don't sell a commodity. Let me give you an example. I used to do work with a company called Grunstein. They sell security screen doors. They ran, in my opinion, one of the best ads I've ever heard on radio years ago that said, imagine how you'd feel if somebody broke into your house and hurt the people you love the most. Grunstein, best security doors in Australia. What are they selling? What's the intangible they're selling? Talk to me. No, the opposite. They're not selling security. It's the opposite of security. What are they selling? Fear. Of course they're selling fear. They can make much more money selling fear than they can flogging screen doors, right? We had the experience when our kids were young, we were going to go overseas, live with nanny for a couple of weeks while we travelled. About 6 weeks before we travelled, someone actually broke into our bedroom and stole cash, and we're not going overseas until we got security screen doors on the house to make sure the kids are safe, right? So when we're buying them from the salesperson, he says to us, you know, when someone has their house broken into, that's the best thing that could ever happen to us, right? No one haggles about price. All they want is the safety of their family, easier sale. Well, CrimSafe worked out the next best thing, and that's to make them worry about it. Plant that fear in their mind, and you will get them there non-price sensitive, because fear is an intangible, whereas security screen doors are a commodity. If you take a similar industry, the blinds and awnings industry is a no-profit industry, right? 60% off Cresta, 80% off Apollo. They've been doing this for years, right? Who can do the cheapest thing there, right? If you think about it, the cost of goods sold is not hugely different, you know, but that's one industry that makes absolutely no money, yet CrimSafe and the security industry is making a bloody fortune selling the same thing with a different marketing emphasis, purely selling the value-added services rather than the core product commoditised. I did quite a bit of work in the aged care industry. What is the expensive nursing home selling to not the resident, but the children of the resident who are putting mum or dad in the home, knowing that mum's upkeep's coming out of their future inheritance, right? What's the expensive nursing home selling? What's the intangible they're selling? Again, like security, it's almost the exact opposite of that. Do you know what I mean? Think about this from there, all right? Think about it. Remember, the target market is the children, right, who may have power of attorney in making decisions, you know, on that family there. What's the intangible they're selling to the children to make them spend more on mum than they had considered? What's the emotion? What's the intangible? Guilt, absolutely. They're in the guilt business. After all she's done for you. Do you know what I mean? Why would you be selling a room in a nursing home, which is a commodity, when you can sell guilt, which is really much harder to put a value on in the marketplace? I have a mate of mine who's now a retired wedding photographer, makes a fortune, charged 50 to 80% more than any other photographer in Sydney. This was his strategy. He gives the proposal to the father of the bride, knowing that wife and daughter are on either side of him. The guy opens the quote and his jaw drops when he finds out how much it's going to cost to have bloody photos at the wedding, right? My mate looks him straight in the eye, knowing that his wife and daughter are focused totally on him, and says, "Do you love your daughter enough to have the best of everything on the most important day of her life?" 90% conversion rate, because he can make much more money selling guilt than he can selling photographs out there in the marketplace, because that's an intangible, right? Interestingly enough, when the whole industry went digital and all the costs plummeted, a lot of photographers dropped their prices to reflect that. He never dropped his prices because he was selling guilt, which never goes out of style. He just made more margin, you know, around there. What does the cosmetics industry sell to women? Now, they sell it to men as well. They just happen to sell it better to women. What's the intangible the cosmetics industry sells to women? Hope, yeah, hope. Sorry, say again? Well, it is. That's exactly that. But it's selling hope. Do you know what I mean? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry based on irrational hope, right? That's why. But that's what. The little tub of goo that costs $200 sells better than the little tub of goo that costs $20, because when you pay $200, there's a lot more hope you're going to look like the celebrity you're never going to look like, right? That's how it works out there, right? It's got an industry, it's got nothing to do with cost of goods sold, right? But it's an extremely lucrative industry, because you can make much more money selling hope than you can selling a commodity. And you know what? There is no reason there has to be any relationship between the cost of goods sold and the price you charge in the marketplace. If you can make 700% margin, if the market will bear it, then go for it, you know, around there. And where is the law that we have to be selling cost plus on insurance policies, you know, around there? And if the blokes are laughing at the women, the golf industry is exactly the same, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry based on irrational hope, right? 75-year-old bloke who can't hit the ball 100 yards pays $7 for a Nike golf ball under the illusion he'll play law like Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods. What a load of rubbish, right? They can make much more money selling hope than they can selling, you know, a basic commodity in the marketplace. Well, now we come to the $64,000 question. What are you guys selling? What is the intangible that you guys are selling? Because I don't believe you are selling risk management. I believe you are selling a completely different variable that has much higher margins that most of you are not letting reflect in the way you do business. What's the intangible? It's like hope, guilt and fear. What are you selling in the marketplace? Sorry? Well, I suppose in some respects to a small way, but I think in the insurance market you are selling in the corporate, like if you were just selling to an individual, I can understand the fear element of putting that in their mind. But I'm talking the hard-nosed corporate marketplace, which most of you work in, right? So the people actually buying the insurance are not necessarily the people who can fall off a building. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever there. What's the intangible you are selling into corporate Australia? Because I think this is really important. Absolutely. You guys are in the peace of mind. You guys don't sell risk management. You should sell stress management. Because stress management is a much higher margin variable than risk management. Risk management, I evaluate risk and reward and prices and whatever. It's very clinical and rational and logical. Stress management, by dealing with us, and we keep up to date with legislation so you don't have to. And here is testimonial evidence of clients who will back up the fact that we practice what we preach. And we've been around for 30 years. Plus, we recognise you as a client. And remember, we took you out last year and stuff like that. When you do business with us, that's one less thing you have to worry about in your busy day. And I believe the marketplace will pay more for that than they will for, we'll get you this range of policies at this price, around which is going to be vulnerable to do that. The other thing that's beautiful in the stress management model is when you are undercut by your competition, what you want to say to them, it's not policy versus policy. What you say to them is this: look, anyone can sell you insurance. The difference is we sell stress management. Here is a checklist of all the things we do to add value to you. Go to the person undercutting us on fees. If you can get all of that from the person undercutting us, take it. But a lot of times, if they don't do it, well, they either don't do it or they don't communicate it. So we're making the decision based on the value-added services rather than the core product. And if their response is, as it's always been, well, we'll go even cheaper with the discount, right? What you're saying to them is, are the value-added services we provide? Now, this should be much better at renewal time, because by the time they're coming to you for renewal, you've had some CDs with the Lexus and you've done some adding value there. So you should have a stronger case at renewal time than when you're getting business at the same time, right? What you're saying to them is, are the value-added services we provide worth the price difference? And some people will say no, right? That's fine. 20% of the market are price shoppers. Price shoppers spend $20 at petrol to save 10 at the supermarket, right? That's a price shopper, right? It's got nothing to do with socioeconomics. There are just as many rich price shoppers as poor price shoppers. It's purely psychological. These people, you can throw all the value addeds in the world, you won't get them if you're 1 cent more expensive. Trust me, you don't want these people. They're pains in the arse. They're on the phone every 5 minutes, hard to get money out of them. Anyone with experience in business can see them coming a mile away. Here's what I suggest you do. Next time you're at a networking function, find the competitor you hate the most and get a business card. Could be sitting in this room, right? Make multiple copies of the business card, and when you get a pain in the ass customer asking you for a discount, before you spend 4 hours doing a proposal you're going to lose, say to them, I can't help you, but here's someone who specialises in dealing with people just like you. Piss off, right? They'll thank you for the referrals, right? To do that. But what you're saying to those people is, are the value-added services I provide worth the price difference? And the issue is, the reason we need to have a lot of them is that people place different values on different things. Some people, you know, if I know the person giving you a testimonial, a real advocate. Other people think all testimonials are crap. I've never seen a bad one. So you need to have more than one value added, right? And one of the value addeds I provide as a speaker, and I'm sure you've seen a million blokes like me, guys like me, a diamond doesn't trust me, right? I offer 12 months marketing consultancy when they book me to speak. Now, when Dallas hires me to do this conference, that offer is made to every broker in the room. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home and brainstorm the non-price reasons a prospective customer should consider when deciding whether to get the business from you, right? I want to hear about your years of experience. I want to hear what you give back to the community. I don't want to hear cliches like, you know, we care for our customers. You write that, I'll write back crap, right? Your customers will tell me whether you care about them, not you. Stop putting rubbish like that in your proposals. And if you write, I act with honesty and integrity, I'll write back double crap, right? I cannot think of a less credible claim than someone I've never met before telling me they're honest. In the financial services industry, for God's sake, right? What I do want to know is the stuff that differentiates you. I always think it's a good idea. Add up the aggregate years of insurance broking experience at your firm and say, we have 323 years of experience. Tell me what you've done for the community. People with civic responsibility like to do business with people who give back to the community. That's more powerful the further you get out of the capital cities. Still got value in Sydney and Melbourne. Again, from other work I was doing with PricewaterhouseCoopers, they have a foundation that gives 6 figures a year to children through charities, through volunteer work and their staff's donations themselves. One of the areas they sponsor is National Breast Cancer Awareness. They're doing a proposal for a 7-figure audit to a major corporation, along with their 3 competitors in the Big Four. The CEO of the target company happens to have a wife in remission from breast cancer at the time and says, you know what, you're all accounting companies. I'd rather go with the people who share my ideals. 2 of the other 3 companies also sponsored breast cancer awareness, never told the marketplace. It's not what you do, it's what you make me aware that you do. And this is what we should be doing. And I believe it really doesn't matter whether they come to you because you support a charity that's close to my heart, or you've got a testimonial from someone they respect, or you've got years of experience, or you're flexible and prepared to come and do business at a time and place to suit me rather than making me go to your office. It doesn't really matter why I do business with you as long as you give me the reasons to. But if you don't give me the reasons to, well, why wouldn't I make the decision on the price of the policy? Don't expect your customers to say, can you give me reasons why I should buy the business from you? Because people don't respond well. They're just consumers don't do that. I know from my own experience trying to buy a car years ago. You've got to buy a car in this country, no one will sell you one, right? I'm sure you've had the same experience as me, right? I was dealing with this car dealer at a place I'd bought a car previously, so it wasn't a tyre kicker. So I said to the guy, hey, mate, I can get this car at 6 places around Sydney. Why should I buy the car from you? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I'll repeat the question slower, right? I said, what's in it for me to do business with you that's got nothing to do with price, given the new cars are identical? He said, didn't have any answers. So he called his boss over, who was equally intelligent, and the boss goes, mate, our dealership really needs your money. Like I care, right? And I'm walking out and the salesman says, hey mate, I've been selling cars in this country since the 70s. You're the first person who've asked me that question. I might be the first person to ask it. Don't you think every person who walks in a car yard or buys from an insurance broker hasn't got that in their mind? So what I'd like you to do is to brainstorm the value addeds. I'm going to give you an email address to write down. My name is spelled correctly in the agenda, so it's just martin@martingrunstein.com.au, and the name is spelled correctly there, right? So martin@martingrunstein.com.au, right? Now, the consultancy is absolutely free of charge. I've got no books or CDs to sell you. It's totally safe to email me. I'm not going to hassle you to buy crap. Right, all I ask you is allow me allow me up to a week to get back to you. I travel a lot and I usually do it first day back in the office after travelling. Why do I do it? I get most of my business from someone who says, I heard you speak at a conference. And they say to their boss, this is what we should do. And the boss says, I'm not paying much money for an hour, right? But I educate them that they get me for a year. Some of these people can justify my fee over a year, but they can't justify it over an hour. I don't care, I get paid up front. Makes no difference to me. Now, 80% of my corporate clients never get full value from the consultancy. It's just a reason to justify a point of purchase. I know from 15 years of offering the consultancy with email as cheap as chips for me. I know it's only important to 20% of the marketplace, but I don't know which 20% of the marketplace, so I tell everybody. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Give me the 15 reasons why I should do business with you that have got nothing to do with price, and make that the centrepiece of your marketing, all right? And unless we are getting that out there, and most of all, because I go to your websites and they might have an About Us page, Bill's passionate about customer service and kittens, and he used to work for a bank and now he's in it. No one gives a stuff. Do you know what I mean? Of that area, right? All I want to know is why you and not you. Do you know? And I believe that should be the centrepiece of your marketing, along with your, testimonials backing it up there, right? That's really important. Now, if you look at how the law of large numbers, when I make that offer at a conference or sponsored event, the take-up rate is 6%, right? I am sure I'll get 20 people come up to me afterwards and swear blind they're going to email me, and 6% will, right? Why? Technology changes, people stay the same, right? If 100% of people took up the offer, I'd be run off my feet. I'd no longer be able to afford to make it. So I have a deep, abiding faith in your laziness for this to continue, right? But I'll answer every email. And I'll be thrilled if I got 30 emails. All I'm saying to you is this. I've changed the way I market my speaking services business to fit in with how people make decisions, and they need reasons to justify the expenditure. And my consultancy, which is my value add, is the centrepiece of my marketing. And I'm asking you to do the same thing. Stop flogging insurance out there. Insurance is a commodity. Start selling stress management out there, and you sell stress management by having the range of value-added services communicate on your website, upfront in proposals, plus, very importantly, having the quality of customer service of your staff so that when I come into contact with you, I have a positive experience rather than negative experience. I can tell you now, you can have all the value addeds in the world. If the person I ring up doesn't return my phone call or treats me like a dick, I'm not doing business with you. You know? And I find it absolutely amazing, and I appreciate, you know, if there was no CPD points, I'd be here talking to myself, right? The whole element of this, right, is there's a return on investment from doing this. I'm not doing it just to bloody, sit in a room for an hour. You are judged by how people come in contact with whoever they come in contact with. Or while you're sitting here at a conference, your staff are back at their office going, the wanker's gone to another conference. He's going to come back with all these ideas and we ain't doing shit. Do you know what I mean? Around there, right? So, you're saying, oh, great, have a good time, get drunk, you deserve it. You've worked hard all year, right? But at the end of the year, my perception of your business is whoever I come in contact with. And these people have never been trained in the art of customer service. They may understand compliance, but they don't understand what an ego crush it is when you don't return a phone call. Or when you tell me I'm wrong as a customer, when as a customer, my ego is more important than your ego. The most basic laws of customer service that I not tell, create empathy, preserve ego. Just make people feel comfortable in your presence, let them walk away without admitting they're an idiot. The odds are you're going to get their business, right? But also we need to give up the need to be right for the greater good of the client relationship. There's an old adage in customer service that says the customer is always right. Greatest load of garbage I've heard in my life. Your customers are wrong almost 100% of the time, and a lot of them are idiots, right? But whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is whether they walk away from dealing with your people thinking they're right, because you sell perceptions, not products out there. Your people have to give up the need to be right. They need to understand this, and it's vital to understand. And it's a very hard thing to do because the need to be right is psychologically wired into us since we are children. How many people here are parents? Just a matter of interest. How many people are parents? Okay, I bet you've been in this situation. You come home, see your toddler drawing with a crayon on the wall, right? You catch them in the act, right? The crayon's in their hand and they're drawing on the wall. And you say to them, who did that? What does your child say, parents? Not me, mummy, right? Around there, right? It's basically hardwired. The younger your child is when they start to lie to you, the more intelligent they are, right? Now, what happens as an adult when they become an insurance broker at the age of 30 or whatever it is there, the customer says to them, you've made a mistake. Their response, we can't say, no, I didn't. What we do is we defend our professionalism. I've been doing this 30 years. Do you know what I mean? I'm really good at this, whatever. And that's the stuff we got to let go. At the end of the day, this is about empathy, not proving them wrong. And your customers are wrong most of the time, right? But whether they feel they can save face and do business with you will determine whether you will keep them as clients more than who's right or wrong. The only time right or wrong is important if you get sued. Do you know? At the end of the day, take one for the team and suck up to the client and tell them they're clever even when they're not. Right, I was out with my wife at a restaurant with another couple and I ordered a Coke from the waiter and the waiter says, we don't have Coke, so we have Pepsi. And I said, that's fine. And I was telling my friends from my old marketing days, I remember Pepsi used to beat Coke in blind product taste and most people couldn't tell the difference anyway. The waiter says, sir, that might have been the case years ago, but in the last 10 years, Coke now does beat Pepsi and most people can tell the difference. Piss off. That's not his job to tell me I'm wrong. That's my wife's job. We might have joked about it, but we never went back to the restaurant. And I don't blame the waiter. He just wasn't trained, to do that. And your frontline people, some of your clients say the dumbest crap. Do you know what I mean? When they're out there and they're wrong. Otherwise, they'd do it themselves, for heaven's sake, right? Your job, your frontline people's job, is to preserve their egos throughout the transaction. Much more important than the numbers that are on the paper, because if you fail to preserve my ego, I will take revenge upon you by either taking my business elsewhere or bad-mouthing you on social media, and and remember the people, and you can experience it from yourself, when you've had bad service in a situation and you are telling the story either face-to-face or on social media, the people listening to you believe exactly what you say, and a lot of times we exaggerate just to make ourselves feel better, and that's what's happening out there in the industry. Train your people. Do you know, there's a great speaker colleague of mine, a guy called Tom O'Toole, Beechworth Bakery, he does this ad, and he was asked, what happens if you train your staff and they leave? He said, and his response was, well, what if you don't train them and they stay? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's something that we want to do. By pure coincidence, you happen to have the finest customer service trainer in Australia at the front of the room, who for money will do this for you. Do you know, it's not a hard thing to do, do you know? So if you want to throw me an email or something like that, and I'll talk to you about how this is done. But the point I'm saying from this whole exercise is, when I say analogue is the future, the human relationship will always be the strongest driver in a business relationship. People are loyal to people, they're not loyal to companies, do you know, in that area. While you are focusing on the digital revolution of I can get 30 emails to you to keep in touch with my client and all the crap that everybody's doing out there, I believe that is diminishing your relationship with your clients, because I believe sometimes the best thing you can do is go have a cappuccino with your client and let them talk about their life. You know, you may say that's not an accountable business expense. I say there's a better return on investment a lot of times from doing that than there is from, bloody sending out 100 proposals and not following them up with a phone call out there. Let me share with you my theory of life to finish off. I appreciate we are under I'll throw it open because I think we've got till 12 o'clock for questions. But let me finish with my theory of life. Everybody's got their own theory of life. Mine's called the idiot theory. I believe that when you're about 12 or 13 or different ages for different kids, you're sitting in your bedroom one day and it dawns on you that you're an idiot. It's happened to everyone. Please don't feel uncomfortable. Traditionally happens when you're going through puberty and you just made a goose of yourself with the opposite sex, and you're sitting in your bedroom going, boy, am I an idiot. I hope nobody's noticed, but it's too late. Everyone knows you're an idiot. So it becomes your mission as a teenager to hide the fact you know you're an idiot from everyone you come in contact with, right? And that's why you dress like the crowd and act like the crowd, and it's risky to ask the opposite sex out for fear of rejection, and that's how we live our teenage years. What most people don't understand is that you never grow out of it. As adults, it in fact intensifies, and it becomes your mission in life forever to hide the fact that you know you're an idiot from every person you ever come in contact with as long as you live. You will find one person in the world who you fool hook, line and sinker in. So you marry them. Please don't feel secure, they're on the same quest, it's not love, right? You'll find another group of people who know you're an idiot and accept you, and we call them, anyone? Friends. And the third group, and the most important for our purposes, are the ones who know you're an idiot, but they don't let you know they know you're an idiot. And they're the people we give our money to in business. And I mean that most sincerely. I had to buy a computer for my business. I know nothing about IT, I'm an idiot in that area of my life. But I had to buy it from a retailer. I want to hide the fact that I'm an idiot from that retailer, so I try and say all the things you're meant to say when you're buying a computer, even though I don't know what I'm talking about. 2 seconds after I open my mouth, retailer knows I'm an idiot, right, from the way I speak. If that retailer lets me know that he or she knows I'm an idiot, I'll run a mile rather than give my money to them, because we don't give our money in business to people who humiliate us in the sales process. And I put it to you, in your industry, a lot of people are getting humiliated in the sales process. Our challenge out there is not how do I flog the insurance. It's how do I get the customer to change their mind from not doing business with us to doing business with us without having to swallow their pride in the process. And there's only two ways I know of doing it. One, give them reasons to justify the expenditure. And two, preserve the ego during the process. I think we've got about 5 or 7 minutes for questions. Anyone have any questions, comments, opinions on anything? My job here in the nicest way is to irritate you guys. Do you know what I mean? To do that. If you are not feeling uncomfortable, I ain't doing my job. Do you know, around there. Anyone have any questions or comments or opinions? Please, sir. Please.
Voice is a bit dusty, sorry.
You're right.
A bit of the theme there was cafes
Yep.
and coffee, and just as a thought to me is that caffeine is a stimulant, and when people are stimulated, they buy.
Yeah.
Is
Oh, absolutely. Look, there's a lot more to it than the basics I've gone through. Believe me, McDonald's don't launch McCafe without millions of dollars of research. Do you know, there's a lot of psychology, do you know, behind that. The most important thing from a retail point of view is to keep people there. Do you know, like the best minds in our world are working out how to keep you on Facebook 10 minutes longer. Do you know what I mean? That's what the greatest minds in our world, do you know, are working at these days. Do you know? And that's if business, I need to keep you there and take away any obstacles to get you. But there is certain, the ambience, the stimulant, you're 100% right. I was doing work in the mortgage broking industry years ago, and I had an idea, and they set up the Loans Cafe in Perth, you know, around there, where people come in. Now, a lot of people just go for a coffee, but when they're in the market for a home loan, so the coffee gets them in. You know, it's just a normal cafe, you know, to do that, but they also do that as well. And I believe that's the way we need to be thinking to get ahead. Now, our thinking has to be, we think like millennials, but please understand, people will always stay the same. We need emotional gratification, we need to be treated like human beings, but we also need to give reasons to do business with you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Please, sir.
On the cafe point,
Yep.
I noticed a lot of buildings in the city, in Perth anyway, have got cafes at the bottom of the buildings now, and it's obviously great in ambience to sell higher retail.
Absolutely.
And I guess on that point as well, there's also a value that that person doesn't spend 10 minutes getting the coffee, but 2 minutes as well.
Absolutely. Believe me, they've worked it through. And you know how much money they'll make from the cafes with the bill, how lucrative that cafe is when you've got a captive audience of people who, unless you really stuff it up in customer service, will go to your cafe because it's so convenient. The interesting thing is the cafe industry has not yet plateaued. This has been happening for 20 years, right? But the cafe industry has not yet plateaued. So you can imagine, and I'm using it as a metaphor, you know, but I believe there is some really simple stuff here that, you know, that we should be doing. I have most of my business meetings in cafes now. I know where you're funny, you know, it used to be go to clients' place. No, we just go for a coffee, you know, to do that. Now, if ever you are having a meeting with your client, you pay for the bloody coffee. Because it's little things like that that they remember, you know, around there. This is a society where we have to combine convenience and understanding how young and old people think, but we also have to have manners and courtesy and common sense because people stay the same. Any other questions? Please, yes. Yeah, it is. But it is. It's a change in society. Your job is not to, you know, you may want to reflect and dictate trends, but you've got to see trends and get on them before your competitors do. Please, John.
How long do testimonials need to be?
Okay. Testimonials for your website come in two things. I think what you want, testimonials, there's nothing wrong with testimonials being long because once people start reading them, they get the emotional, and your testimonials are great, do you know? But today, if we're looking at technology, it's so easy. After you've solved a claim and a customer's really happy and you save them, just take your iPhone out there and say, can you just tell for 30 seconds how you feel about our service? Because they will talk emotionally and whatever there, and you whack that up on your website. And once people see that, they're not looking at the price of the policy, they're just looking at the emotions you create to do that. Because when people give you testimonials, they don't say, oh, you got me the best price. James was fantastic to deal with and I'd trust him, you know, around there. And that's the stuff you want to do that actually gets the focus off the cost of what you do and onto the results. And technology has made it easier for us, you know, with iPhones to be able to do that. But don't just have one line where, you know, your service was good. Testimonials are about creating the emotion. And also, it's important you have lots of testimonials on your website. I see businesses that have been around, we've been around 40 years delivering great service and they've got 2 testimonials, right? Been in business 40 years, you've got 2 happy customers. Good work, right? You know, it is a matter of having a lot there to create the first impression that you have lots of happy customers. The more you can focus on that, the less price comes into the equation. Around there. Anyway, I will hand it back to Bruce. I'm hanging around at lunchtime, or definitely if people want to come have a chat or an argument. I know I've been flippant about the consultancy, but I would be really thrilled if I got 20, you know, or 30 emails here. If I don't hear from you in the next few days, I'll never hear from you at all. I hope there's value in this, ladies and gents. I wish you all the best in your business. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a little-
Thank you very much.
I have a little gift for
Thank
you.
you very
Thanks
much
so
indeed.
much.
Pleasure.
A big thanks.